Me. Hey everybody, I am State Representative Leslie Herod. It's good to be with you all today. I represent House District 8, for y'all who don't know, which is in Central and Northeast Denver, right here. I represent this district right here. How many of y'all are in my district? How many of y'all aren't sure? That's okay. Where do you live, Miss Nasty?
I'm over by Wash Park.
Okay. You're one of the unfortunate few who is not represented by me. So you should probably be represented by Alec Garnett, who is our majority leader. He's a great guy. And you will know because when your ballot comes, you'll see whose names are on the ballot. So don't you worry. And if you need help and my advice on my colleagues, I'm always happy to give that to you as well. But I also, for those of you that don't know me, I also chair the Finance Committee for the House, and I vice chair the Judiciary Committee. So I do a lot of work on finance and also criminal justice reform. I'm proud to have passed 217, which is our Law Enforcement Accountability Act. Thank you, and thanks to everyone who came out and protested and made sure that happened. It would not have happened without you. Recently, I also worked with my Democratic caucus to pass the Crown Act so that we can no longer discriminate based on ethnic hairstyles in the workplace, in school, and in housing. Thank you very much. So we are definitely making moves in Colorado, and I'm really excited to be a part of a group, really, Democrats and Republicans, who are a little less divisive than what we might hear about in the news. To be clear, the Law Enforcement Accountability Act, hey up there, Law Enforcement Accountability Act passed with bipartisan support, only 2 no votes in the entire Senate. So that's been great. So today we are here to talk about what's on our ballot. And we have one of the longest ballots in Colorado history. So I want to go through as much of this as I can with you all. We are in a lovely garden, lovely social distance. So please feel free to ask me any questions because it's the perfect size to actually have a dialogue. There are some ballot measures that I am endorsing and some that I am opposed or I'm neutral on. And I'll make sure that you know that as well. So that when you get your ballot, you can make your own informed decision about what you want to do. So everyone should have a blue book now. If you are not in Denver, please know that when we get to the Denver section, I'll let you know. Your ballot will look different than, of course, if you're in Arapahoe or a different county after we get to the state measures. Additionally, I want to say that you can trace your ballot. How many of you all have signed up for Ballot Trace? Okay, not everybody. Okay, so cool thing is, I got a text this morning on my phone because my ballot has been put in the mail. And I know that because I signed up for Ballot Trace. And you can do that through your county clerk, Denver County Clerk, or go votecolorado.com and make sure you signed up for Ballot Trace. And just recently, it was announced that this is not just for Denver voters, it's for the entire state of Colorado. So the fun thing about that is, I know y'all are all going to vote as soon as you get your ballots, right away, which I recommend, which I usually vote on the day of. Don't do that. Do it early this time. We need you. And you can track it. It'll tell you when it was actually collected and picked up by your county clerk. So you know that your ballot got there. More importantly, it'll tell you when your ballot is counted on election night. So you can make sure that your ballot was counted. But also, if there's any discrepancy, maybe your signature is not the same as the signature you signed up with, or anything like that, or your bubbles aren't filled in, or there's just some confusion, you'll get a text message and you can cure it via text. So you can fix the problems right away. Colorado is really intent on making sure that everyone can vote. So, a couple of quiz questions. I'm going to ask you about voter registration in Colorado. How old do you need to be to vote in Colorado? 18, right? Good. So far, you guys are doing all right. Can felons vote in Colorado? How many yes, how many no? Yes, raise your hand. You're a felon and you're voting. Amen. You are absolutely right. Bonus points over there. In Colorado, you can be a felon and vote. Okay? So when you get these questions, make sure folks know that is not the same in every state. Okay? Colorado, you can be a felon and vote. Now, what about if you're on parole? If you're on parole, can you vote? There's a yes. Is there any no's? People are just really quiet at this point. I get it. What do you think up there?
of us are on parole.
None of you are on parole. Okay. Well, just this cycle, because I ran a bill and passed it, parolees are eligible to vote in Colorado. My last question that people get caught up on, what if you're in jail and you're waiting trial? Can you vote in Colorado?
Yes.
Yes, good. You guys, see, my questions were actually much easier. Yeses. So you can, and it's great to have partners like the Colorado Criminal Justice Coalition that's actually going into jails and getting folks registered and voting. All right, this last question is not a multiple choice. It's not true false. So, when is the last day to register to vote in Colorado? Look at that, election day. Good job. Again, because of reforms that we have recently passed, there's no more 30 days, 60 days. You got to register in time. You can register to vote on the same day. Okay? So, what does that mean? Your friends have no excuses. I know y'all are not the normal people because you're here on a ballot party right when ballots mail. So you're going to vote, right? But your friends are maybe questioning or not sure. Now you have all the answers to give them so you can make sure that when you cast your ballot, you bring at least 3 friends with you to cast your ballot. Question, yes?
Is it better to vote in line or do a drop off?
That is a great question. I'm going to say that it's whatever you feel comfortable with. You can do a drop off and it is secure and it will be traced. Sign up for ballot trace, right? You can go in person and it is secure. But we have COVID concerns, so we want to avoid lines. If you're going to go in person, please still just go early.
I had a friend tell me that those are just kind of backup votes.
No.
Drop off.
Nope, they're not backup votes. Colorado, because of our change in the law, it's very rare that you'll get a provisional ballot. You will be able to vote and your vote will be counted. Not backup. It is your vote. Okay? We might get something provisional if, say, you're registered to vote in Denver, but you're voting in Arapahoe because you just moved, right? In fact, they'll change your voter registration there, and you should still get a Arapahoe County ballot. So it's really rare that you get a provisional ballot. But that is something that used to happen. So, you know, to be clear, we are doing new things in Colorado. This is our first presidential under some of these rules. But some of the rules, like no ballots, have been around for a while. Any other ballot questions?
She's asking if our ballots count.
So if we mail in,
Uh-huh.
are those like put to the side if the race isn't called the night of, or are they?
No. Every vote counts. If you mail your ballot in, as long as it's mailed and received by election day, okay? So don't stick it in the mail on election day and think your vote's counted, right? That's not going to happen. Well, maybe it will. We'll see. But that's a little bit more iffy. But if you put it in the mail, your vote is actually probably going to be one of the first to be counted.
So they do count as they like.
Yes. If you put in the mail, you vote early, you vote before election day, you're part of that first round of return results that we get about 7:15, because that's how we know, right? Because they've been counting those votes. Okay. So and every ballot is traceable. So it's not about some system that's put into the internet. We don't even use that, right? So it's hand counted. Of course, there's machines that verify too, but it's hand counted and it's not tied into the internet, so we don't have to worry about any type of cyber attacks on our votes. Good question, though. Other questions about the ballot in general or voting in Colorado? All right, cool. Okay, so let's get into the ballot. As I said, this is definitely one of the longest ballots that we have, and this is probably my first time this cycle going through the ballot questions. So we will go through them together, okay? First is Amendment B to repeal the Gallagher Amendment. Now, y'all, this is going to sound so boring, okay? Y'all look through this and you're like, this is probably, okay, tell me how many of you guys opened your blue book to this first question and was like, okay, this sucks. like, let me get back to this later, because it's so boring, right? You think you're going to be like getting something juicy right away. But I got to tell you, this actually does mean a lot. So Colorado, we have this thing called TABOR, the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, where the legislature can't increase taxes without a vote of the people. We also have Gallagher, which ties property taxes with commercial taxes, okay? Both of those measures together have put Colorado in a pretty dire fiscal situation. And with COVID, it's even worse. So this is getting at repealing Gallagher. we'd like, some of us, myself included, would like to repeal Tabor too, but because of the single ballot question that we have now, we can't do that in one question. But Gallagher stands alone, and Gallagher is something that we can repeal. So this is actually something that is really important because it doesn't increase your property tax rate, but what it will do is make sure that we have some equilibrium between property and commercial taxes so that we have the funding that we need to fund vital services like fire. Some of this will go to schools and things like that. So Gallagher is very important. It is actually a bipartisan initiative. So Democrats and Republicans alike are supporting it. I always find it awkward when I am supporting the same thing as Southerners down the mayor of Colorado Springs, but we are. And it's because we know that if we don't do something about Gallagher, our cities and our communities will not get the resources that they need. So I am a strong yes on this amendment. I voted for it to get onto the ballot through the General Assembly, and that's why I support it today. And I will say that these amendments, they are amendments to the Constitution. Some of them were referred, by the legislature, and I'll let you all know which one. Oh, they actually say it here now. Placed on the ballot by the legislature. I'll also say that I used to be staff for the General Assembly, so I used to write the blue book back in the day. So it's kind of fun. Okay, so I'm a yes on that. Are there questions? Okay. Amendment C, conduct of charitable gaming. Shall there be an amendment on the Colorado Constitution concerning the conduct of charitable gaming activities and in connection therewith, allowing bingo raffle licenses to hire managers and operators games and reduce the required period of charitable organizations' continuous existence before they can get a license? This is literally about bingo, you guys. There are some things that we have in statutes that are really shouldn't be there, but this is really what it's about. And so, I mean, I'm not gonna say you have to vote yes or no on this one, but I do support it. I think it makes sense. We have technology now where we can verify a charitable organization, and if they want to have a raffle or a bingo, quite frankly, it's not going to tip the scales too much. So I think it's kind of fun. All right. The next one is 76. This is a citizen initiative. Shall there be an amendment to the Colorado Constitution requiring that there be qualified to any vote election, an individual must be a United States citizen? So, question, can non-U.S. citizens vote in Colorado or in any state in the nation? No. That's already in the Constitution. This measure is actually more tricky than it looks, and quite frankly, I believe just tries to further demonize folks who are undocumented in our communities. So I actually vote no on this measure. I think it's not as clear-cut as you would think it is, but it's also already in the Constitution that you have to be a U.S. citizen. So these kind of measures are placed on the ballot. And by the way, a vote no, this will not make it so that undocumented people can vote. That will not change that. But these type of measures were put on the ballot to, and there's some that are Democrat and Republican, progressive and conservative, so I'm going to be honest with you, that are placed on the ballot because folks are worried that their base won't turn out. And this was used to rile up a base that was an anti-immigrant base to get them to turn out. Now, we are not going to have turnout issues in Colorado. So you won't see people running campaigns on TV about this like they initially were planning when they had to be on the deadlines to place things on the ballot. So, that's where we are. Okay, Amendment 77. Local voter approve of casino bet limits and games in Black Hawk, Central City, and Cripple Creek. So you guys know you can't do casino gambling in Denver, right? You have to go up the way, as my mom calls it, up the hill, to Black Hawk, Cripple Creek, Central City. So this would change the statute concerning voter-approved changes to limit gaming and in connection therewith, allow the voters of Central City, Black Hawk, and Cripple Creek for their individual cities to approve their gaming in addition to those currently allowed and increase single bet limit to any amount by allowing gaming tax revenue to be used for support services. So basically this is saying that they will no longer have to go to the ballot if they want to change their gaming limits. There's good and bad to this. these are antiquated laws that were put in place, and they're, you put a $500 betting limit in statute in the 70s, and it feels very different than it does today, right? The reason for these betting limits are, though, because I think people have very real challenges with gambling and setting their own limits so that, they don't go bankrupt, but their family doesn't go bankrupt, and things like that. So, but I think that this should be a local control measure. So I actually do not oppose this measure. I think it makes sense for the cities to decide what their limits are, and they do get great revenue from this. And these are, turning around ghost towns and making them something that the people of Colorado go to. But if you don't like gambling, right, and you don't believe that folks, that the rate should go up or that the cap should go up, then, and they should just go to Vegas or go somewhere else if they want to be big rollers, then you would want to vote no. Yep.
How is it monitored where the money's going to?
So their city councils or their board of trustees in those localities will determine not only what the limits are, but how revenue is then used by the town.
Is that public?
Yes, it will be public. It will be during public hearings. They would also have to change their ordinances, right, if they wanted the change to happen. All of that would be public, and ideally would require public comment or allow for public comment as well. And I think it will be somewhat controversial. Some folks in those towns don't want more gambling. They want more people,
Neither does
So,
Denver.
huh?
Neither does Denver.
Right. It's true. So, I think that's a little interesting of a ballot measure. So, that's kind of where that one is. Other questions on that? All right, Proposition EE. This is tax on nicotine products. You probably have seen this if you actually watch TV. I know a lot of folks don't watch the actual TV anymore, but there have been a lot of ads against Proposition EE. I recently did a ballot guide or ballot talk about this measure, which, by the way, starting early next week, check out my Instagram and you'll see, and Facebook, you'll see some lives where I actually talk to proponents and opponents of these different ballot measures and get their input. And you can join us and ask questions too. This is a tough one. So I did vote yes as a legislature to put this on the ballot. Vaping products in Colorado are not taxed at all. Okay? That's a problem. I believe they should be taxed. Nicotine products are taxed, but we're taxed low. This would put vaping products in the nicotine tax and then increase the overall tax for all nicotine-related products. It would put us about the middle of the pack for states for our tax rate, but it's almost double the tax. Okay? The reason for this, one of the reasons that were stated by the proponents on the call, is that Colorado actually has one of the highest teen vaping uses in the country. So we are different than other states when it comes to vaping use. I didn't know that. That's very fascinating to me. I don't know why, but it's the truth. Okay? Additionally, with our tax low, we know that there are more people who have smoking addictions and they want to break them, and we don't have enough services for people. So the money would go to things like that. But it goes to other things too. Okay? So it also goes to things like early childhood education to make sure that everyone has access to early childhood education. If you got little ones, you know how expensive this is. But you also know, if you're a person of color or low income, how important it is to have early childhood and how that can actually bring the achievement gap down so that we all have the same abilities to learn and grow and be successful. It also goes to things like housing in rural areas. So maybe a lot of these things seem unrelated, right? That is true. So the opposition, well, there is opposition from the tobacco companies. Shocking. There is opposition from the tobacco companies, and they are the ones running the ads. But there's also opposition from the left. And I want to tell you about that. The left is opposing, some people on the left are opposing this measure because sales taxes and increase on taxes like this are regressive. They will disproportionately impact those who are low income, who are addicted, and communities of color because they have been targeted for tobacco, right? You guys know menthols were targeted towards the African American community. Low income communities typically are the ones who are more addicted to tobacco products, right? We've uncovered all of that. But it's a tax to pay for things that low income folks might need, but it's a tax on low income people, which makes it a regressive tax. So that's something that I think you're going to have to balance in your heart, right? Is this regressive tax worth it? to provide the housing, education services, and the other things that communities do need. So the proponents of the measure will say it is by letter of the law, right? By letter policy a regressive tax, but it is a progressive movement because of what the money is going to fund. Others say regressive is regressive, charge billionaires for these services, period. You know what I mean? So that's up to you guys to decide. These measures are very usually tight in the votes, right? So your vote really will matter on this type of measure. And that's where we are. I have not made a complete decision yet on this one, but I obviously will by election day. So, and probably by next week. Questions? Okay, good. Okay, and Proposition 113, adopt agreement to elect the U.S. President by national popular vote. Have you guys heard about this conversation? Yeah? Okay, what do you all think about national popular vote?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, why?
Is this the one that all the electoral college votes for Colorado would go
To the winner. Yep, of the popular vote. Right? Who's a no? Anyone? Unsure. Okay, I'm gonna try to get a little more working together. Because I'm here like an official, but you have to listen to everything I say. And I would be shocked if you agree with everything I do. My mom doesn't agree with everything I do, so I'd be shocked if you all did. But I support Proposition 113. I think there are changes that need to happen with our electoral system, as we saw last cycle. We've had more than one president that has won that have not necessarily won the popular vote, and that needs to change. And so I support this. It won't go into effect until we have a certain number of other states that join us in this, just so you know. But this does keep Colorado on the list of a yes vote for national popular vote, meaning that the legislature already voted yes. If we get the compact going, we will be a part of that compact, and they can't undo it. What they're trying to do here is undo the legislature's decision to be in support of national popular vote. So I'm a yes on that, and I did vote for it in the Capitol as well. The reintroduction and management of gray wolves. Who wants to talk about gray wolves? Who knows? Right. So let me use this as an opportunity to tell you all about how you can actually get a measure on the ballot. So they can be referred by the legislature with, depending on the ballot measure, sometimes 2/3 and I think sometimes majority. Or you can gather signatures from across the state to get on the ballot as a citizen. And for city measures from across the city. We have it actually in Colorado. It's one of the easiest states to put your measure on the ballot. Okay? So these folks, I'm going to assume, and I know some of them who put this gray wolf on the ballot, were upset that the General Assembly was not acting on this issue as a priority. Okay? So they said, we're going to do it ourselves. Fair enough, And they've actually gotten a lot of support, which is why they're on the ballot. They got signatures from every single, I think it's congressional and Senate district across the state of Colorado to be on the ballot. I applaud them for that, 100%. And so this basically says that Parks and Wildlife Commission will develop a plan to reintroduce and manage gray wolves in Colorado. And I support it. I think conservation efforts are important. I probably didn't know 3 things about a gray wolf before these advocates came and tried to talk to us about it. I think conservation efforts are important, and in fact, a lot more than just gray wolves, but help to keep Colorado. And quite frankly, the wiping out of any animal for some of the reasons where they were wiped out, usually, expansion, farming, things like that, is really problematic if we don't find a way to balance it. So I support this motion.
I have a question.
Yep.
Are there any repercussions for farmers? Are they allowed to shoot them on their land?
It's my understanding that these will, well, I don't know actually that question. Sophie, do you know?
I think it's the commission that's gonna.
Oh, the commission will set the standard?
I think so.
Okay.
I think it's if it affects your livestock.
I'm sorry, can you say it a little
I
louder?
think if they're attacking your livestock, you get compensated with what it says, but it doesn't say if you can take action. I of course hope they wouldn't. I don't know.
So if we wanted to do a little investigation, maybe we'll find an answer by the end of today, or we can get back to you with that answer. I do know that is, that is a big question that people have. And I would be shocked if if this bill did not allow for folks to protect their land, especially in these rural areas. As you know, they can shoot humans. So,
That's what I'm more for the wolf, but
yeah. Yeah. And I think, question about how you know if it's a gray wolf versus a fox or something else. So we'll get an answer to that question. Yep. Thank you for asking that. Proposition 115. This prohibits abortions after 22 weeks. Okay, this is a very important ballot measure. And I will tell you, I oppose this measure. Okay? It is very deceptively written as well. But I'm going to tell you why I oppose it. My mom is a retired OBGYN in the Army. And this would not only criminalize the woman, but the doctor and the healthcare provider as well. A 22-week abortion is rare in Colorado. When it happens, it's usually for a very important medical need. It's a decision that I believe families should make together with their medical professional, not by politicians. And what I know about my mom's service in the military is that when we lived overseas, I remember living in Korea, people do not just stop having abortions because they're not available. Abortions are not available on base. They go off base, and if it's a place where it's not safe or regulated, they will still have an abortion, and they will go back to someone like my mom, their doctor, the medical professional, who was approved by their insurance, and will be told by people like my mom that, thank God you didn't kill yourself because people die this way, but you'll never be able to have a child again. That's what happens when you don't allow for safe, regulated, and accessible abortion care. So this is a rollback of women's rights right now, and I should say people's rights right now, and we need to make sure that we are watching for these measures. Colorado has beat down personhood amendments year after year after year. This one's written a little bit more deceptively and problematically, and right now it's polling about negative. So we need your support to vote no on this measure. That's my opinion. And other folks might not agree with it, but that is where I stand on this measure. I believe it will have a disproportionate impact on people who can't just afford to fly to a place like California and get their medical needs met. Questions? All right. Okay. Proposition 115, state income tax reduction. Look, everyone wants their taxes reduced. Right now is not the time. We are already at a deficit because we have not been able to increase taxes when we need to, but with COVID, it's even worse. More importantly, we're not saying where these taxes cuts will come from, so then you're going to put it on my colleagues and me to decide where the cuts are going to come from. Number one places in our budget are healthcare and education and prisons. I'm trying to close down the prisons, so I got you there. But thank you. But there's a lot more money that we'll need to find in this really bad budget and support for things that we care about, like education, like small business growth, like healthcare and recovery from COVID will not be funded. I'm on the governor's tax commission task force, where we are trying to figure out what we can move to the ballot that will change our taxes a little bit, our structure, right? Maybe take away some tax breaks from the billionaires and the corporations, right? Maybe get rid of some that are obsolete. Maybe think about a more progressive tax structure in general. That's what we're working on. That is long time work. This goes against any of that work. It will roll it back, and it will be really hard to undo. This is also polling very closely. I'm a strong no vote on that. Questions? Oh, public transportation is another piece. Transportation also will be cut. That's a huge part of our budget. And do you know my colleagues don't think that there should be any kind of bike lane? It's really interesting. They don't believe in multimodal transportation. And these are the fights that we have in the General Assembly a lot, and it's fascinating to me because I believe those are things that government should support and fund, right? Like taxes should go to these things. They don't agree. But beyond that, we also need to fix our roads, and that needs to happen too. We're not going to fund it.
What's their reason for disagreeing?
They think it's a big city issue. They think only liberals ride buses. I don't get it.
Have they heard of us? They ever had to?
Listen,
They don't even take the A line.
listen. I mean, we can get you some audio. There are some fascinating debates that happen in the Capitol around this, and like literally, they talk about like unicycles. What is a pogo stick? Like they got pogo stick lanes, and we're like, what are you talking about? You know. Meanwhile, a lot of our changes in our even our bike lanes, our parking structures, things like that have changed from COVID anyways, right? We're allowing more folks to dine on the street. We're shutting down streets, right? We're thinking about things creatively across the state of Colorado that they've been pushing on for years, right? So I think Proposition 116 is bad for the state. These debates are ones that we have as legislatures every day. We will continue to have them, especially around transportation, but we don't need to cut things like transportation, education, and healthcare. Proposition 117, voter approval for certain new state enterprises. You know, I have not been able to spend much time with this measure, so I'm going to say I'm undecided on this. I'm doing a ballot review party on this measure, or not ballot, Facebook Live on this measure on Wednesday, or something, Wednesday, I believe, or sometime next week, where I'm going to talk to the proponents and the opponents about this measure. It seems straightforward to me. But I need to know more, so I'm not sure yet. So follow me on social media if you want to find out where I'm going to go. At Leslie Harrod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Well, what is the gist of it?
So, shall there be a change to the Colorado Revised Statutes requiring state voter approval for the next even year election of any new created state enterprise that is exempt from TABOR, Taxpayer Bill of Rights, if the projected or actual combined revenue from fees and surcharges of the enterprise and all of the enterprises created within the last 5 years serve primarily the same purpose is greater than $100 million. So if I read the face of this bill, this measure, and again I need to look at it, but to me this is saying, again, taking away the power of the General Assembly to determine how we're going to tax and what people have to go through a vote of the people. A lot of times when you go through the vote of the people, it means you have a lot of money to be able to get these measures on the ballot, right? I ran a ballot measure called Caring for Denver. It was just a Denver ballot measure. It cost $400,000 to run that measure. Statewide measures usually cost in the millions of dollars. So, I don't know. I don't love it, and I'm gonna do my research to make sure that my gut is right on that. Yep.
I just have a question. This might be really silly, but where does all the money go to? Is that ads? Like, where does all of the
Oh, to run? Yeah, a lot of it goes to ads. The money that we had for the campaign did not provide any money for TV ads. That was, there was some staffing to pay, there's door knocking, and there was print materials to hand out. We were like shoestring budget at that, okay? Shoestring budget. So, I mean, right now, a full statewide measure that has opposition is going to cost, or a citywide measure, I'm sorry, that has opposition is going to cost about $3 million.
and does that money come through taxes, or how do they generate it?
No, fundraise. We fundraise. So you want to look at, like, if there's a measure that is funded by, like the EE, for instance, the tobacco one, you can actually look publicly to find out where the money's coming from. That's how we know that the money to oppose EE came from Big Tobacco, right? Because they listed how much money they supported or that they put towards the race. There's also dark money that's involved, which means they're not reporting that, you know? But even the hard side money, we call it, the public money is still very expensive. But you're right, it goes away from, funding other services. Like, why aren't you going to put your, $400,000 into Urban Peak and provide services for homeless youth? That is true. But it is coming from individual donors who are making decisions about what they want. And corporations. Okay, Proposition 118, paid family leave. I know this one very well because it came through my committee in various different iterations. This measure would allow for paid family leave, maximum of 12 weeks, family and medical leave with 4 weeks for pregnancy and childbirth complications. This creates a state paid family leave where employers pay into it and employees can take out. So that if you are a part of a corporation, right, and you already have paid family leave, you're doing great. You know how good it is, and you probably use it sometimes. There's a lot of groups who aren't, who don't get that benefit. And as a country, we are one of the worst in, I don't like to say developed countries, but that we don't have that state, countrywide, we should nationally. This provides us in Colorado. It is an interesting approach because everyone has to pay into the fund. Big businesses tend to be in opposition to this measure because they're saying we take care of our employees as part of our benefit package. You should too. We don't want to pay into a state board. Small businesses say they can't provide that same benefit. And some of them might need that. Some small businesses don't like it either though because they just don't want the government to decide or to have this pool for employees. But we do it with things like unemployment, right? We do it with things like requirements on workers' compensation. So I support it. Right now it's polling really strong ahead because I think people are seeing what happens when you don't have things like paid family leave. But again, business owners, they feel like this is going to be a hit. I believe that once we get past the tough parts, people will see that this is a shared benefit that we all need, but it's going to take some growing pains to get there. I will acknowledge that 100%. Which is again why we don't need to cut taxes. But I support this measure. Okay, did we get through? We got through. What time is it?
150.
What time? 1:50. Wow, we're good. So, and I have to, we're going to take a break at 2. We were going to take a break at 2, but it looks like we might be done. I think, can you grab Sophie? She's going to give me the Denver guy. Oh, are you here? There you are. I've been staring at you. You guys, this is my amazing staff, Sophie, who runs the show. She also does all of our social media graphics. She's been amazing. And she keeps my life together. Your blue book will come in English and Spanish, just so you guys know. And then you also should have a blue book for local issues. So I'm going to run those by you real quick before I have to go on a Zoom, but then I'll be back afterwards for questions once you guys get a little bit of break. Any questions so far?
Why do some of them pass at 55% and some of them pass at the majority?
It depends on what part of statute they're changing. And what part of constitution or statute and what, it's a whole kind of antiquated system, but some of them are 55, some of them are 50 plus 1, and others are even higher. I believe it's the constitutional ones that are 55. Okay. We have a rule for everything on the ballot, quite frankly. Climate funding measure 2A. This is for Denver. And again, I'm going to run through it quickly, and Sophie, you're going to keep me on time so I'm not late. So, 2A will provide funding for, basically that goes to the city, where they have created a climate commission, basically, to think about how we are dealing with climate issues right here in Denver. We do have challenges with climate. There's not a lot of dedicated funding. This measure will increase your taxes, your sales tax, to provide funding to deal with things and upgrade energy efficiency in homes, for those who can't afford it, reduce our carbon footprint, clean transportation, all of that. So I will tell you that I am not as well versed on climate issues as I wish I was, okay? I believe it is something that is very important for us, and it's quite frankly an existential crisis that we're facing. People who deny that we have climate change, it just blows my mind. We know it's real, right? We know it's happening. We deal with the fires, which are not started by climate change, but are spread because of climate change, right? Become these huge things. I mean, they're started by people, quite frankly, have the whole, some of them having gender reveal parties. Don't do that, please. Don't do it. Stop labeling your kids anyways. But anyways, so I support this measure because I think we do need to have more conversation in Denver around climate, and I do believe that we, as big cities, we have an obligation to start addressing the pollution that we're putting out into the world. This will put more focus on that. So I support it. By the way, I don't mind increasing taxes if we need to. So 25 cents on $100 is not a lot, and will go a long way in helping the climate. Okay? 2A, this is set up a little bit differently. Homeless, 2B. This one's a little bit more controversial. It's another 25 cent sales tax, which sorry guys, it was my idea to do these 25-cent sales taxes. That's why I passed carrying for Denver. But I want to tell you guys that we now have the largest mental health foundation in the country. And we're able to do things like start a program called STAR, which now if you're in the central area, you call 911 with someone who's having a mental health or substance use crisis. You actually get a mental health professional, an EMT, not a cop. So, I love it. I love STAR. I love the ability that we're able to do with Caring for Denver. We created an independent foundation to run the fund. This fund will be run by the city. It's to address our homelessness crisis. It'll be run by the host office. And it is, I believe we need to do more. Honestly though, I believe that the reason why this is on the ballot is because city leadership has not done enough. And people have had to go to the ballot to do this. Still a regressive tax, we're not to this the sales tax. But we gotta do something, right? I think, I don't know, maybe everyone doesn't agree that we need to do something about homelessness in Denver. I sure do. And I don't think that any of the interventions that we really focus on as a city have worked, except for when we provide supportive housing, like the Renaissance Plaza on 40th in Colorado, which people don't even, if you're not from Denver, you don't even know that that's a homeless housing, former homelessness housing situation, but you probably didn't know it was there before, which was a pretty rundown hotel that was set back from Colorado Boulevard that was hugely problematic and unsafe. And now that place is super safe. People are getting supportive, not only housing, but their mental health care and case management. And, you know, we share the same coffee shop and hang out, right? Because when people have the services they need, you create an environment where people can thrive. So I support the measure, and I hope Denver will too.
Leslie,
Questions?
it's a good place to stop after this one.
I'm at 5?
Yeah, 5
Okay.
minutes.
What else is on the ballot, Sophie, that I'm missing? 2C. Oh, without executive approval. So there are some measures here, and since I have to go, I will not go in detail. But I believe the other measures that are left on the ballot really are talking about moving the power of the mayor and moving things into city council. It's a super inside baseball conversation. But I actually don't know what to say about them. Denver has a strong mayor system. Mayors make most of the decisions in Denver. City councils have less power. So when they don't work well together, you see a lot of, obviously, publicly fighting, which I think we kind of see right now. When you have a good mayor, you never hear about a strong mayor system because people are happy with the way things are going. When you have someone that city council disagrees with, you see a lot of tension. And so right now, city council is trying to pull some of that power and putting more checks on the mayor. That is, again, something I think that you all should decide about, what you like, what you don't like about strong mayor systems, and should the city council have more power. It does not, in my opinion, it won't fix infighting, right? Because if you have a city council person that agrees with another city council person, it's going to fight anyways. But this does put checks on it. For instance, cabinet members have to be approved and things like that. Okay? All right, y'all. I'm so sorry to have to end abruptly. I have to get on a live real quick with some youth who want to talk about voting, and then I will be back. So if you want to hang out in the garden for about 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I'll be back to chat with you all, and you can ask me whatever question that comes up while you are looking through the ballot guide. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all so